Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Publish and Prosper,
Where publishing, e-commerce, and marketing collide. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Publish and Prosper, where Lauren is working on making time speed up.
Yeah.
And or stand still.
Oh, no.
No, just speed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we started recording, Lauren revealed to me that she's working on it. So that would imply that one has some sort of a blueprint or a plan they're trying to do.
I mean, it's unfortunately, I don't think it's something that will apply to everybody else, just me.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't realize you're going to be selfish with it either.
Well, I don't know, because my current strategy for making time go faster is to just constantly be doing things.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So the more that you're doing,
all right,
the less you realize how slowly everything happened. So,
yeah, I think I was thinking more along the lines of like you and your cat in your apartment are building some sort of a machine that would help you speed up time. But maybe I watched too many cartoons and science fiction shows.
I mean, on the one hand, it would be great.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the key problem in what you just said is specifically that Rose is the kind of cat that you can't leave anything unattended for more than like 30 seconds.
Wait, that's the key problem?
Yes.
Is that your cat?
She would destroy it before we ever even built it. So
The key problem, ladies and gentlemen, and others,
in time travel
is not that Lauren cannot develop a machine. It's that her cat will probably derail the project.
Unfortunately, I just quite simply will not be able to solve the problem of time travel because I have a real brat of a cat.
Okay.
That's the only thing stopping me.
All right. Well, with that, today we're going to be talking about turning your blog into a book and how to do that.
That's a form of time travel, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe.
Well,
I don't think we're going to be able to connect the dots on that one.
no.
Yeah. Yep. Blog to book strategy. That's what we're talking about today. We will no longer be talking about time travel or anything else.
I make no such promises.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that we get asked about a lot, or a decent amount, I should say, and where we've seen people actually have success with trying to create a book or monetize their blog is, this whole strategy of taking your blog content and turning it into a book. So we're going to address a lot of the common questions and misconceptions, everything from, well, if they already read my blog, why would they pay for a book, all the way to how in the world do I turn a blog into a book, right?
Yeah.
Am I on the right track?
You sure are.
Do I need to slow down or speed up time?
No, I think you're right on the mark.
What if people listen to this at 2x?
I would highly discourage that.
I mean, that's a form of speeding up time, right?
This is a debate that my friends and I have all the time, actually, about audiobooks, because there are people that like listen to audiobooks at 2x speed.
Yeah.
And I, as an audiobook girly, I would actually throw myself off a cliff before I listened to an audiobook at 2x speed.
That's very dark. But okay.
Could be fun.
Okay.
I can't.
I've never listened to
imagine
anything at 2x speed, so I don't know what that sounds. I mean, does it sound like?
Yeah.
Like you can tell, like it's the guy at the end of the commercial trying to get all the terms and conditions in before.
Yes.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts.
And like, God forbid the narrator already has a little bit of an annoying voice or something. You've just sped it up and made it 10 times worse.
Well, that might make it sound better.
At that point, that is any time that I have changed the speed on an audiobook, that's been why I've been doing it, to try to mess with the narrator's voice a little bit and see if I can make it.
Now, see, I like that.
Yeah, and that actually does work. But even then, it's usually like 1.15. Definitely not 2 times.
Oh, just barely?
Yeah, just like a little, just a little tweaking. So if I wanted to read the book that fast, I would just read it myself.
All right. Very good.
But yeah, no. So I mean, I guess if you've ever listened to this podcast in anything other than 1x speed, I'm so sorry. And don't let us know, because I don't want to know that.
Now I feel like I need to listen to this podcast at 1.5 to 2x.
Please don't.
Now I'm dying to know.
I don't have time to deal with that when you decide it sounds awful. I have too many other things to do right now.
No, you don't.
You're
you
right.
Don't.
I have nothing else going on right now.
You are podcast only.
Free as a bird.
That's right. I'm going to listen to it in 2X when I leave in my car on the way home.
Great. Can't wait.
I might get home faster.
Maybe you will.
Maybe we just solved time travel.
Maybe that's it.
Listening to everything at 2X.
Makes you drive faster. I do notice that I drive faster when I listen to faster music.
Done. I'll take my Nobel Peace Prize now.
Perfect.
Please.
I'll submit it. I will actually just submit this recording as
but
evidence.
do it in 2X.
Yes. Perfect. We're on it.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
All right. Why are we talking about this today? We're talking about this today because there are a lot of people out there that are still stuck at that that point where they've got a blog. Topic is not of importance right now, but they're struggling with ways to monetize it. Maybe they've made some space to allow some programmatic advertising on their site, a couple banner ads or whatever. But we all know how gross that is, and unless you're pulling down large traffic numbers, that means you're probably not making a lot of money off of it.
Well, and also, not only are you probably not making a whole lot of money off of it, but you are giving away real estate on your page to send people away from your content.
Well, you're not giving it away, but yeah, essentially you're right. For the people who do click on those ads, they are leaving your blog. Yeah, you're 100% right. They're paying you for that, but it's not, nobody's getting rich off that.
At what cost?
Exactly. Yeah. So, again, why we talk about blogs specifically is primarily because of, quite frankly, you know how to write. You have a blog. The idea is that you've been writing. Like, for you to put pen to paper or finger to keyboard is clearly not an issue. You have a blog. You've been blogging regularly, hopefully. You're putting out short form and long form content or a mix of the two, and you understand the idea of conceptualizing something, turning it into a piece of content, and then putting it out there in the world. For you, that process would be extremely similar for a book. And technically you have the content. So we're going to talk about, other reasons why you should do this, what you can do with it, how you can do it. And maybe we'll talk about some other pointless things along the way.
I always try to talk about some pointless things along the way. It's my favorite part.
All right. So why else should they do this? Just because, our two smiling faces tell them they should? Well,
there's a lot of reasons, honestly. And I'm sure some of them have occurred to you already, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. Obviously, we've talked in the past about how valuable a book can be as a lead magnet and as kind of a sample of what you're capable of and what you can do and what your expertise is and what your knowledge is in. It's hard to really articulate to somebody in a conversation like exactly what you can do.
Yeah.
For so many, and even, not in the sense of like everyone can say, "Oh, what do you do?" Like, "Hey, nice to meet you. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a food blogger." Everyone knows what that means. No one's going to question, like, "You're a food blogger. What does that mean?" "You're a travel blogger. What does that mean?" But it's like actually being able to showcase and highlight your work is not as easy to do when it's digital like that.
Yep. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's a great opportunity for you to show off your work and also a great opportunity for you to, show off yourself as well. You're literally, look, we're past the window of time. We've had all these different, flash in the pan trend. Yeah, that's the first. Okay. Trends over the years where we've had everyone and their mother had a blog for a little while. Everybody and their mother started a podcast at some point in time.
My mom didn't.
Everyone has tried TikTok, whatever. But not everybody can write a book. Well, that's not true. We will make the argument that everybody can write a book, but the general public concept of writing a book, people still have that inherently subconsciously in their brain that you've done something a little more impressive than the average person by writing and publishing a book.
Yeah, I think it's okay to say not everybody can write a book.
Great.
I think that's different than saying, not everybody should write a book. I do think there are a lot of people who can't write a book. Not that, I mean, there's a lot of people that can't just sit down and write a book. It's very hard. I would even struggle and do struggle to just sit down and write a book, like without the proper access to tools, or I should say the access to proper tools, resources, people, things like that. Not everybody can just sit down and write a book. So I think it's okay to say that. And that's why a lot of people never will write a book. But it's also why when we do see that somebody has written a book and it looks better than, 14 pages stapled together where things were drawn like stick figures with crayons, we should give them some credit and say, wow, okay, they've got a book on the subject. They must be somewhat knowledgeable. And by the way, they must have some decent level of work ethic and drive and determination, right?
Absolutely.
It's not easy to write a book per se. I know we say that a lot, but I think, when we say that, what we really mean is that the resources exist, the tools exist, the technology exists, so that everybody has a fairly equal shot at writing a book, but it doesn't mean everybody can or will. So yeah, I think that saying that not everybody can write a book is okay.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page about that, because I immediately was like, wait, I don't know if that's the stance that I want to take on here. But
I knew where you were coming from that.
Okay.
And we do often, we sometimes throw that out there, like everybody can write a book and everybody should. I mean, sure, everybody should write a book at some point or create some sort of book or just create in general. I don't think enough people in the world just create stuff, right? Like, who cares if it's crappy? Yeah. Like, create stuff. Kurt Vonnegut was very famous for saying, like, create bad stuff if you have to, like badly drawn art or badly written books, but just create stuff. But it also doesn't mean that everybody's going to be able to create a good book that's going to go on to sell more than 100 copies.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
okay.
That's just the reality of it. But the point is that if you have done that and you have a tangible physical book that you can show people and say, like, yeah, I've been running this blog for a decade. I've put a lot of effort into it. I even turned some of my content into a book recently, and look at this cool book that I have. Like, that is absolutely a little extra step in, oh, that's really impressive. Oh, you must actually really know what you're talking about. You must actually be really dedicated to this particular subject, this particular craft, whatever it is. Like, you've really taken it a step further, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
It's a great way to, kind of name yourself as an authority in your field. It's also a great way. I was listening to our friend Joe Polizzi's podcast while I was working on outlining this episode. And he talked a little bit about, this is something that he's done on more than one occasion. And he kind of called it the blog to book to speaking pipeline. And talked about how, if that's something that is, like, all three of those things are something that you're interested in doing with your content in the long term, that's a great kind of strategy for you to take. It's giving you a content strategy. You come up with an idea okay.
Go ahead.
All right. You come up with an idea for your book. You figure out what content you need from your blog to fit that book. So that's going to give you kind of a content calendar for the next few months.
Yeah.
And then when you have that book, you start pitching that as your speaking sessions at major events. So it's kind of giving you like a variety of different content, all based on this one strategy.
Yeah. It's also a strategy that is basically your path to speaking. So for some people, that's their goal, is that they're trying to get to a point where that's what they do primarily, is speak.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be their primary income, or they hope, and that's what so the blog is a starting point. A book is the next step, again, to establish that authority, grow that audience, make people aware of who you are and your expertise. The book helps you get your foot in the door to speaking at events, conferences, and ultimately becoming a keynote speaker where you're sought out and contracted and asked to come speak. So yeah, there's a number of different angles to take with there, but that's a really good one. Yeah. We mentioned expanding your audience. So, when you write a blog, you're basically speaking to your audience on the internet, in the digital world, and that's just kind of your audience. And your hope is that you can grow that audience, right, digitally, through a couple of different ways. You can do, paid efforts and paid ads and stuff like that. You're hopefully doing the right thing and getting people to sign up for your mailing list as you get them over to your blog. And so that creates another channel to hopefully, not only build but expand on your audience. But you can literally expand your audience into, from the digital into the analog world by writing a book. And that's a whole new audience that can come back and now discover your blog. And I think that's a great way to go from one, sort of medium to another and then back. And a lot of people don't think about that. They just think digital first and digital only. But it's not until you've actually, written and utilized a book for some of these things where it really clicks and it makes sense. Like, oh, okay, there is a whole audience of people out there that they don't really read a lot of stuff online. They're not huge blog followers, or, they're not reading a ton of articles online. Maybe they got a couple of newsletters that they subscribe to that they'll read through on occasion, but they choose to get their information from books. This is a very prevalent thing in the world of science and technology and these other fields where people are used to reading books. They've been in school for a lot of time. You know what I mean? Like they use reference manuals a lot, the medical profession, places. So these people are used to reading books. They're not your typical audience that you're going to catch necessarily on your blog. So understanding that there's a whole nother, subset of people out there that they would rather read a book than sit on their laptop for a couple hours reading a bunch of articles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of them.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not really a blog reader. I sign up for newsletters all the time, and sometimes I read them, and sometimes I'll click into the blog posts within them. But I'm never like browsing just for blog content. But I do pick up books all the time. I'm
worse, and I hesitate to say this, but I print that stuff.
Of course you do.
So when there's articles that come into my inbox and I do want to read it, I will literally print it here, where I'll print it on the print and then I'll just read it, and then I can highlight it, I can mark it up, I get it.
But yeah, I mean, it is a great opportunity to get your content out in front of other people, to reach new audiences, to reach audiences that you might not necessarily, whether that is doing it because your book is going to, like, you're going to reach a new audience of people because you're getting speaking engagements that you might not have gotten without the book, whether it's because you just are reaching an audience of people that are book readers and not digital content readers. I mean, even just, and there are plenty of reasons that somebody might want to turn a blog into a book that has nothing to do with, like, I'm not interested in speaking. I don't want to travel to events. I don't want to do this, whatever. I just, maybe I just want to have a physical, tangible version of my content.
Yeah.
Something that has a little bit more longevity than a blog that could get deleted any day. Or maybe it's something that is like, your content is a lot easier to navigate in a physical form.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the practicality of it as well,
Yeah.
depending on who your audience and genre is. Our friend Steven that just wrote the book about, I
The
forgot
Disney
the title.
physio.
Yeah, about staying, physically fit while at Disney. It's pocketbook size, so you can take it with you. But then, there's some travel creators who they have people who read their blogs or whatever and come back to them and say, well, this is great, but I'd love to have this in book form because I'm sometimes in places where I'm off the grid, like no electricity, no internet, and they like it that way. It's not like so they'd like to have the book as a way to, either read or, as a reference if you write, travel content that is geared towards helping people, survive or whatever. So, I mean, there's a practicality aspect to it.
Yeah, we had this problem in London, not even off the grid somewhere. When we were in London, a few of the people on our team had just, even though they were supposed to have international roaming on their phones, just wasn't working out for them. And a lot of people were having connectivity issues, and it was harder for them to navigate any kind of content that they needed from that.
Yeah, T-Mobile did us dirty on that one.
Verizon, baby. This is not sponsored by Verizon.
No, definitely not sponsored by T-Mobile.
Definitely not. But, you never know when that's going to be the situation. Also, not for nothing, there are just some things, too, that, like, it always drives me crazy when I'm trying a new recipe that I found online and I don't have a written copy of it because, first of all, I want to, like, make notes if I change anything on there or, like, if I'm changing the quantities or something like that. But also, I do not want to touch my iPad screen with my, like, food covered fingers.
Yeah. You know how I could get around that? I don't cook.
Okay. That's fair.
I just go out for Mexican every single night.
Oh, man. Now I'm hungry. We shouldn't have done this. It's fine. It's okay. I should have gotten lunch first. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, the point is there are a lot of... I know. There are a lot of different reasons for you to try turning your content into a book. And, for all of the different people that we talked to about why it would be cool for you to have a book for some reason or another, bloggers are perhaps the most qualified, not qualified, but like you're already halfway there.
Well, yeah, like we said earlier at the top of this episode, I mean, there's a lot of different people who want to create books, content creators, and maybe their current medium is video or even podcasting, and they're struggling to see how they could easily take that content and turn it into a book, although it is a lot easier these days. But again, like we said, as a blogger, you're already halfway there. You already have it all in written form. It's just a matter of deciding what's going to go into the book, what areas you need to fill in the gaps, and then formatting it, and that's it.
Yeah. So you want to talk about that a little bit, about how to decide what kind of content goes in your book?
Did we kind of cover, all the different types of books? I think we did a pretty good job, right?
I mean, we certainly can if you want to.
No, I think it's just important for people to understand that when we say book, we're not always talking about a 200-page business banger. Like sometimes we're talking about, a workbook, a note. What are you laughing at?
200-page business banger.
You know what I mean? Like a good business book, man. Like one of those you pop open on the plane and before you know it, you're in London and you read the whole book.
I'm going to need somebody listening to this podcast to write a book called Business Banger.
How do you know I'm not already?
Well, then get a move on. You've got like 2 weeks before this episode comes out, so.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to trademark it now. Well, it's copyrighted the minute I start writing it.
That's so true. We just finished learning about that.
That's right. See?
Yep.
But, you can do notebooks, workbooks, planners, all kinds of different types of books. So, again, don't pigeonhole yourself into thinking you have to write, as Lauren so eloquently put it, a 200-page business banger. It can be a lot of different things. All right. How do you do it?
That's a great question.
Yep.
First step, I'm going to borrow again from our friend Joe over here. Find your tilt.
He's so generous to loan us all of his content and his euphemisms and his metaphors. And
I mean, when it's good stuff. Right?
That's
Come
true.
on now. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, find your tilt, I think, is some pretty sound advice.
What's that mean?
I think we start there.
I'm pretty sure that's similar to saying the niches are in the riches, or the riches are in the niches.
Well, I was perhaps trying to avoid saying the word niche.
I knew you were.
I knew it was going to come up. It's fine.
That's
what I'm going to do with my free time at some point. Is I'm going to go through this podcast and like pull every clip of us arguing about how to say niche.
What do your bracelets say?
My bracelets say Epcot forever, because I've been deeply in a Disney mood lately.
That's a multiple repeat, isn't it?
I know, but it's one of my favorite ones because the colors are like really stand out to me when I'm like reaching into the bowl of them trying to pull one out. Electric Touch and A Long Time Coming. Yeah. I know I'm feeling kind of bored of them lately. Like I think I need to make a fresh batch.
If we start losing listeners because you're falling off on these bracelets, I'm going to be upset.
Well, I'm to follow up on a conversation from 3 months ago. I did some writing this weekend, not on my own book, so it doesn't count. But I did write like 6,000 words this weekend, which means I get to make 6 new bracelets, according to the deal that we made.
That's right. Yeah.
3 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
but I thought the deal was specifically geared towards your book.
Well.
All right.
I think we should. It was fictional writing.
Whatever.
It was creative fictional writing that just happens to not be publishable because it is fan fiction.
Find your tilt is finding your niche.
Yes. Yes, it is. And there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing that. You might want to just, very straightforward look at what your top performing content is. Go through, and there's different metrics that you can look at maybe to help you decide that. You might want to look at which posts are the most read on your blog, most visited. Maybe you want to look at which ones are highest ranking in search. Maybe you want to look at the ones that have the most comments on them. So they've sparked the most discussion.
Yeah.
Debate, something like that. If there's one that people ask you all the time, like, could you talk more about this? Could you do a part 2 on this one? Could you dive a little deeper? What about this? Like, that could be a great kickoff point for figuring that out. You can also ask your audience.
Yeah, but I think that's, in a way, you've kind of already done that.
True.
So again, if you've been creating content for a little while for your blog, you're going to have most of these metrics. You're going to be able to tell which of your blog articles, your posts have gotten the most traffic, most engagement, all of those things. And so again, I would start there because chances are you already have what you need. Especially if you get comments on your blog and you start digging into those. So I think that's a good start. And I think from there you can start to kind of piece together if there's any recurring themes. So you might blog about something that's broad, but your top performing articles might all belong to the same sort of threaded theme. Like if you're a travel content creator, you might write broadly about travel across various different, whether that's flying to places, taking cruise ships, whatever. But you might find that your top performing blog articles from the last year or 12 months, 6 months, whatever, all maybe deal with, Disney vacations, right? And so, it's very clear that you should be writing something to do with Disney vacations. So take those, now that you know that you're top performing, and then start digging in. Were there any comments? Did anybody ask any questions that I answered? Some of those other things. And I think that's where I would go with that and find the theme. Then you can start moving towards, building your outline and filling in the gaps.
Well, and I think also not only can you find your theme in doing that, but it might also even kind of help you inform what type of book, to go back to Matt's earlier point about how there's like different types of content that you can create from your blog. Following that same example, you're a travel blogger and you do a lot of different types of travel content, and you go back and look through your posts and you realize that, your top 20 performing posts from the last 5 years are every time that you've done some kind of like, here is an essential packing list for this type of trip. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a cool book idea that you can take, that you put together, 20 like essential packing lists for all different types of vacations, or like theme them together. So Disney or theme park vacations and cruises and whatever. And then you mix that together with notebook content that has like, now people have space to write their own packing list in there too.
Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily writing a book, but that is taking your informed awareness of your content, seeing what performed well, and figuring out a way to monetize that and make it something physical that people can buy from you.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, then, once you've got that figured out, whatever that may be, then you're going to want to look into organizing your content. There's a lot of different ways that you might want to go about doing it, depending on what.
Only one way for me.
What's that?
Well, I suck at doing outlines.
Yeah.
Like terribly. Like, I don't know why. Ever since really high school, but definitely college, I don't know. And that's where I get stopped. Like once I have an outline, I can start moving. So, once ChatGPT was available, like that's the first thing, honestly, that I tried.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people went in and like asked it something dumb, like when's the end of the earth, or the world going to happen or stuff like that. I just immediately was like, all these things that I've wanted to write where I couldn't get past the outline, like create an outline for me based on this, and this, and boom. And I was like, it's like when they open up the ark on Indiana Jones at the end, although nobody got melted, their faces didn't fall off. But So yeah, that's how I do outlines now.
There's like the slight difference there because you said that, and before you did say that, my brain went da-na-na-na, the treasure chest opening noise from Legend of Zelda. So slight age difference there.
Another good one.
Also a great one, yeah. But yeah, that's fair. Actually, that is probably what I use ChatGPT for most too, is helping me draft outlines and then using that as like a skeleton jumping off point.
That's right.
So that is for sure something you can do is you can, once you have your list of these are the 25 posts that I want to include, upload that list to ChatGPT and say, hey, organize this into some kind of outline for me. Mm-hmm. But insofar as how you want to organize that, there's probably a lot of different ways. You might want to do it thematically. You might want to do it, if you're doing a book on social media and you want to break it down into 5 sections and each section is one different platform and you're putting in 5 blog posts in each of those sections.
Yeah.
That kind of, or you're putting together a cookbook and you're not just going to, put your recipes in there in alphabetical order. You're going to have your breakfast recipes and your appetizers and your main courses and your desserts.
Well, yeah, now you get into formatting too, though. So just so everybody understands, like you can also sort of chop your book up into parts.
Yeah.
Right. So themes can also be parts for your book. So if you're doing a social media book, you can have part 1 that focuses on, certain types of social media channels or whatever that might be. And then part 2 is another theme. And then you have, your blog articles that have been condensed into that section as chapters. But I would look at blog articles themselves as potentially chapters and the themes as parts of the book. But again, that's formatting nerd stuff. But
I think you're right. And I think that is an important part of considering this and in figuring out how you want to lay out your content like that. Because one of the other things that I'm going to say is very important for you to do at this stage is when you have those laid out and you have that awareness of what blog content you want to include and how you want to include it in there, you might notice some gaps.
Yeah.
And that is something important that you have to consider unless you are choosing to go the route of I am just publishing like an exact replica of all of my blog content from January 2024 to December 2024 in chronological order. And that is what it is. Like, okay, then it's just an exact reproduction of that. But if you are trying to organize it into some kind of cohesive book, you're probably going to realize that there are some content gaps that you're going to need to fill, which isn't a bad thing because, like, from a marketing perspective, that's a nice way to be able to say, like, this book has all of my greatest hits from my blog in it, but also some brand new, never before seen content that you can't get on the blog.
Content and context, right? Yeah. Like it could have been a blog article you wrote 8 months ago, but now you have a slightly different, level of context that you might want to add to it or some updates or things. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Which is going to get us into that next step of the process that I'm going to call the edit and rewrite step. Because that is absolutely something that you're probably going to do. And especially if you're, 8 months, I would say maybe is even kind of newer content than some people are including in their books. Some people might be going back
Not if you're
years.
writing about social media.
Well, trust, I know. Yeah. But you might have to go through your blog posts depending on how far back you're reaching. You might even, you might not have realized it, but just over time, your style has changed a little bit. Your voice has changed a little bit. You might have realized some point over time that in the beginning, you were writing in that, like, I'm never going to say I in a blog post, but I'm not really writing in first person or second person or third person either. So I'm just kind of being like vague and ambiguous. Mm-hmm. One might think perhaps, and then, 3 years down the road, you were like, no.
Yeah.
Me, whatever.
Find and replace or whatever, yeah.
So you might want to just go through and say like, back in the day I was writing these blogs in third person and now I'm writing them in first person. So let me go through and kind of make them all match.
Yeah.
So that they're all the same. Or maybe I realized like halfway through writing my blog, I stopped writing ebook with a capital B and now I write it with a lowercase b. As you should, because ebook with a capital B is stupid.
Wow, what a crazy thing to take a hard stance on.
It is a thing. It's actually, it is something, all of those things. I hate all of the, like, iPhone with a capital P, like anything where we've done the E or the I as the lowercase letter at the beginning, I think is just asinine. I have a lot of opinions on that.
I see.
It's fine. Okay. But that's the kind of thing you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go through, you might have some dated references. I know I'm so guilty of this. I go through blog posts when it's that I wrote for Lulu 4 or 5 years ago, and I look at them and I'm like, I don't even remember what this reference is about. And I'm the one that wrote it. Like, you know, so there might be some things that you want to update. There also might be some things in your blog that don't work as well in a book format. You know, so maybe you link out to something, maybe you have, you took some screenshots of a website that you were explaining how to use the website or whatever, and those don't really, they might be outdated, first of all. You might also not have permission to use them. Remember that copyright in graphics is a thing that we just talked about, for sure. Just saying. I just finished editing that episode, so it's top of mind right now. But there's a lot of things that you're just going to want to go through. If there are graphics that you do want to use, same note, you're going to want to make sure that you have the permission to use them and that you have the right format to use them, because the type of graphic that looks good on a blog is not necessarily the same file that's going to look good in a printed book.
Yeah, actually.
So, you know, it's the little minutia and the cleanup and things like that you're going to want to go through and do.
Yeah, and if you're able to and you can afford it, you could always just hire somebody to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because nothing sounds worse than pouring over, 100 pages of stuff where you're literally just looking for, those types of things. Like, oh, I'm going to replace first-person narrative on everything. Like, oh, God, nothing sounds worse. If you can pay somebody to do it, I would.
Well, wait until we get into the formatting part.
Yeah.
Because same. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. One of the things that you have to do when you're formatting your book is you're going to have to remove all existing formatting. Mm-hmm. So if you are, again, guilty for sure of this, if you are somebody who overuses italics, and your blog posts are full. Yes, I do. And your blog posts are full of italicized words and phrases. You have to copy that over into a doc as a clean, unformatted version. So do you really want to manually go through and have to re-italicize everything that you've done? Might be a good time to break yourself of the italics habit.
Maybe.
But also might be a good time to hire somebody to do the formatting for you.
Or find and replace. Actually, I don't know if you can do that with formatting, can you?
I don't think you can. I mean, you can batch unformat everything, but I don't think that you can go through and be like...
Yeah, single out.
Find everything that's italicized in this document.
I'm really bad about ellipses. I put those all the time. Like,
yeah, you do.
I don't know how I ever got into that habit, but... Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
worse about it when I'm texting people.
Yeah.
I'm really bad about using ellipses. I don't know. Periods just seem so like final.
But we both talk that way.
That's true.
That's something that I've noticed in writing up transcripts for these episodes, mm-hmm. is how often we trail off instead of a hard period. So we both do. There are a lot there's a lot of ellipses use in our transcripts of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Couple of other notes about formatting your book, and then we'll get to the more fun part, like the tips and tools and how to get these things done. Just remember that we have a bunch of resources available for you on the Lulu website. Mm-hmm. Our blog is very thorough with formatting stuff. We also have a webinar that Chelsea and I referenced in the last episode that we recorded. The Fun with Formatting webinar that I still reference all the time. Every time that I'm creating a book project for Lulu, I reference that webinar. So we've got a ton of resources for you if it is something that you want to try doing on your own.
Yeah.
And if not, there are plenty of ways that you can hire a freelance editor, designer, or something to help you out with that. Mm-hmm. And there are some really cool tools that you can use.
You sound very excited about these tools.
Well,
Well, you know,
I'm trying to be better about not doing everything manually by hand. As somebody who is both a very analog person and a very like, I don't trust that anyone or anything is going to do as good a job on this as I will. I'm trying to be better about relying on technology and tools that are available to me when they have been proven to be valuable assets.
Yeah, that I understand. I'm in my era now, maybe it's an age thing, where I look for anything and everything that I could just pay somebody to do.
Fair.
I think I'm out of that era where I want to do everything myself, or, you know, I have a natural curiosity that leads me down that path. Now I'm at the point where I physically have to stop myself and just say, you don't have time for this. Like, you could be doing this other thing or hanging out with your family or doing whatever. And so now I'm like, oh, is there somebody or some service I can pay to do this?
See, maybe it's not an age thing as much as it is for me. Well, I have X amount of money in my bank account right now. Do I want to spend it on hiring somebody to format this book for me, or do I want to spend it on 2 extra nights at the beach club?
Understood.
So,
yeah.
And I'm going to choose the beach club 10 out of 10 times. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, in that scenario, I would do the same. Fortunately, there are times where I can just do both.
And that's very fortunate.
Yeah. If I can't afford to pay somebody to do something that I need done, then that's when I'll go for one of these tools. So for writing and editing and formatting, really, but for writing and editing specifically, and most people are writing in Word or Google Docs, and that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. Scrivener is another one. For editing, you can use a separate tool. You can use things like Grammarly or Hemingway. I don't know. You have ChatGPT on here. I don't know if I would use ChatGPT for editing or not. I've not actually tried it, so I don't want to necessarily, downplay it if it's done a good job for other people. But the problem with ChatGPT and really any of the generative AI tools right now is they're all getting better and better, right? Mm-hmm. The version used today is the dumbest version that'll ever exist. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that quote. But I don't know. There's just something about, like, even now, whatever I get as output from ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whatever, I still find myself going back through and double checking every bit of it. So in that instance, for me, it just feels like extra work to ask ChatGPT to do something that I feel a level of accuracy is needed, because I just know I'm going to go back through it again. And so I'm really wasting time in my brain. So I don't know if I would. Now, if you've used ChatGPT for editing or know somebody that has, and it did a great job, great. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm hesitant to suggest it.
So my inclusion of ChatGPT on here is definitely more as a tool that is good to use while you are writing, not as a large batch editor. Like, I would not suggest uploading a whole chapter or a whole blog post or a whole section of your book and uploading it to ChatGPT and saying, like, can you spell check and grammar check and suggest edits? That I would not use it for. My sister works in LLM training.
I saw she got a new job recently.
Yes. And she does.
Congratulations, by the way.
I will pass that on to her. She doesn't listen to this podcast.
What?
I know.
Never mind. No congratulations. You got lucky.
Perfect. Yep, that's fair.
I don't know how you landed that job when you don't listen to Publish and Prosper.
I know.
And support your sister.
I know.
Terrible.
I'm going to just sneak into her apartment and play it on Spotify when she's not looking. It's fine. But she and I were talking about this recently, and she always makes the point to remember that all of these different tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever it is, they are inherently people pleasers. So they will try to give you an answer even if they can't. And if you argue with them, they might shift their stance and agree with you. So that is always something that you kind of have to keep in mind. But I will use ChatGPT when I'm writing as a gut check for myself. Like, I literally have a chat, like a saved chat pinned in ChatGPT that's called Grammar Gut Check. And I will when I'm sitting there and I'm writing something and I get hung up on the like, oh man, like which version of this word is the right one to use? Or did I phrase this incorrectly? Or this looks weird and I can't put my finger on what it is. And it's the thing that I know is going to start building that writer's block that I'm not going to be able to get over because I'm like stuck on finishing the sentence.
Past.
Exactly, like past and past. I'm so glad you remember that.
Could forget it.
Thanks. But that's the point where I will open up ChatGPT and say, hey, like, just gut check me on this one. Is it past or past here? And then I'll keep going. So I wouldn't use it as like a large format editing tool.
But okay. I mean, that's fair. And, you know, somebody else out there listening could be like, you guys are crazy. I use it all the time and it's always spot on. So if that's the case, great. But again, for writing, you know, it's fine to use Word. It's fine to use Google Docs, Scrivener, some of these others. What I would do personally and what I do is I use the same tool for writing and formatting.
Yeah.
I use Atticus. There is a little bit of a learning curve there, but it's not bad at all. There are others. You can use Vellum. There's Atticus, there's Vellum, there's several others that you can use they're probably more formatting tools than anything else. I think most of them still offer the ability to just write in the tool as well.
Yeah, I think most of the word process or the formatting software that we've talked about is also a word processor.
Yeah, now some of them might lack some of that grammar guidance and other things, so that might be why, you know, some people choose to still write. Like even the grammar guidance and punctuation guidance in Google Docs is better than nothing. And I would argue is probably better than ChatGPT. But again, I've not really used GPT for grammar and things like that. But anyways, I like Atticus, especially after I really sort of understood how to use it for formatting. Writing in it's easy, but formatting, there's a little bit of a learning curve depending on what kind of content you're creating. But it's a great tool. Vellum, heard a lot of great things about them. Although I think, isn't Vellum the one that's not available on MacBook?
Vellum is Mac only.
Mac only.
Yeah.
Right.
We did actually we did an episode a while back that was 5 tools to help you draft, publish, and sell your book.
Oh, cool.
And we did talk, you were there. We talked about Vellum and Atticus in that episode. And a couple other things too. So if you want to go listen to that one, we also, Paul, our, what's his title now? Content manager? Something.
Paul was I think a senior content manager.
Perfect.
Or something.
Paul, the person who is the captain of this ship and keeps us afloat.
Of the captain of the content boat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And is also our blog writer.
Probably captain more than that, actually. But,
for sure.
Yeah.
But he has done a bunch of different software reviews for these different softwares that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I will link a couple of them in the show notes. But if there's any that you're interested in learning more about, that would be my recommendation, would be go check out the blog. And he never does that. They're never sponsored. Like he always does them out of interest of, as a writer himself, as somebody who's worked in publishing for a long time himself. Like he's just interested in this type of tool and software and stuff. So go check those out
anything you
for sure.
find, by the way, on the Lulu blog like that, it's never sponsored or paid. We're not in a position where we need to take that money. We don't do that. We don't offer anything like that. There's no paid advertising on Lulu. There's no paid sponsored content. Like if we review a product or a service or anything, that's being done because we wanted to.
Yeah.
And so you can bet it's going to be an honest sort of review.
And in this podcast too, anything that we talk about that we're like, oh, this is a tool that we think is useful or a company that we like or whatever, like that's just because we're nerds and and the beauty of it is like this
we're
stuff.
lucky. We don't have to take any sponsor money.
Right.
There's no ads. There's no sponsors here. We just talk about what we want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're ever curious how genuine any of these recommendations are, we truly do mean them, for sure.
Lastly, for design, if you are brave enough to want to design your own cover, there's a couple of tools that are specific to doing book covers. Obviously, Adobe InDesign. There's a tool called Publisher by a brand called Affinity. So Affinity Publisher. It's basically a carbon copy of InDesign to a degree. Some say it's a little easier to use. Some say it's no different. But nonetheless, it is way cheaper.
Yeah, that's the more important part. It's way cheaper.
a lot of people use Canva. I would almost caution you on using Canva. For ebook covers, boo, it's fine. It can be a little tricky to use Canva and then bring that over to your publishing platform of choice and make it work, because what they call book covers and sizes in Canva isn't actually correct. Mm-hmm. So if you're savvy enough to download a template like from Lulu, for example, and then take that into Canva, and you're good enough at design to be able to set those bleeds, margins, and gutters appropriately, then it's probably fine. Otherwise, you're probably actually better off, if you're a Canva person, just going into the Lulu cover tool generator. It's been completely revamped in the last year and a half. I would argue it's a great tool for creating covers.
Yeah.
If you're just a Canva wizard, though, and you want to have a go at it, do it. But just make sure you bring in the right specs for the cover, the bleeds and the gutters, because Canva is not very good at that for print covers.
Right. Which is all information that you can find on Lulu's website if you are publishing your book through Lulu,
That's
which
right.
obviously you should be.
Or the blog.
Yes, you can find all that on the blog as well, but you can download custom templates that are sized exactly to fit the book cover based on the specs that you choose. Mm-hmm. But, also depending on what kind of blog creator you are, what kind of blog you have, you might have way better options already available to you. If part of your blog content includes you're a food blogger or a travel blogger or some kind of blogger that also takes photos of the things that you're talking about, use your own photos. Don't reinvent the wheel here. I'm going to recommend just in general that you try to stick with your brand's existing aesthetic. If I had a blog, if I've been spending the last 5 years blogging about Disney and my whole blog is pink and sparkly and gold glitter and very Disney princess aesthetic, and then I published a book with black skulls all over the cover, yes, both of those things fit my personal aesthetic, but would my fans and followers of my blog recognize that this content was my content when it's so out there from what they're used to seeing from me? If you've spent the time to create a brand, which you should, we've talked about that in other episodes, that you should have some kind of branding guidelines for your content. Don't stretch too far outside of that box with your book content as well.
Yeah.
And I would say the same maybe goes for title too.
Definitely for title.
You want your title to be something that's familiar to your audience. I don't know necessarily that I would name your book the exact same thing as what your blog is called.
Well, yeah, it just depends, right? Again, if you were able to niche down, find a theme that is, slightly separate from your blog title, for example, then yeah, give the book a different title. But I don't think there's anything wrong with titling your book the same as your blog. It just depends. If your blog is just called Antihero, don't name your book Antihero.
Right. Right.
Maybe call it The Ramblings of an Antihero.
Yeah. Something related.
Or The Antihero Chronicles.
Ooh.
Or
I like that.
Lessons from an Antihero.
I like that.
Something
too.
like that, right?
Yeah.
You can incorporate your blog title in there, but.
Well, also what happens if you're, 2 years from now, you decide it's time to put out another book.
Yes.
And you've already used the title.
Which you should.
Which you absolutely should. That's going to be probably my last point on here. But you don't want to back yourself into a position where you can't reuse the title. That
or everything has to be a volume.
Right.
Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4.
Okay.
Although I will tell you, this is another great use of ChatGPT and Claude is titles, right? So things where you need to come up with subject line for an email, title for a book or blog article. Ask it literally, say, give me 10 different titles for this content, and give it the content, or give it, a summary of the content, and it'll spit out 10, and every single one of them will be slightly off in one way or the other, but 9 times out of 10, you can mash 2 of them together or pull from 2 or 3 of them and make a really cool title.
Sure.
Then drop that in there and say, hey, I really like this one, but can you give me, 8 other variations of it so I can make my final decision? And you'll get to a point where you get some really cool titles and subject lines and things out of those tools. So
yeah, that's how this episode title is going to come to be. It's already given me. I've got a list of 5 at the bottom of this outline doc that were suggestions from ChatGPT, and we're going to workshop those together later once the episode is done being edited.
Yay.
Yep. And by that, I mean me and ChatGPT, not me
good.
and you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're off the hook.
Got
Don't
it.
you worry. But yeah, just want to reiterate that last point really quickly. Why stop at just one book? Especially if you've done this work to kind of organize your content and you already see it. Maybe you had all this, because you don't. I would not recommend using all of your content, all of your existing content in one book. I would not recommend that you do that. But let's say that you picked 25 blog posts, but you had 10 additional ones that almost made the cut, but they weren't quite as connected to the other ones, or they were a little bit more advanced than the other ones, or they were about a different topic or whatever it was. That's your start for your next book. And that's your content calendar for the next 6 months.
That's true.
Figure out what missing pieces you need to create that content into a book, write that content over the next year. And now it's time for another book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, in theory, the gift that keeps on giving for as long as you're still creating blog content. Just couple last thoughts on this. And then we probably got to wrap it up because I am ready to eat my own arm off. So
Wow.
look.
Good thing this is a video podcast.
Yep.
Or bad thing, I should say.
No, well, I'm not going to. Don't worry.
Well, most of these are other episodes. So really, all you were going to mention was, a little bit about marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there are other episodes for that. But I think there's some valid, quick little points here.
Yep.
One is, yes, letting your audience know this is coming. So again, we say this all the time. Don't start your book marketing on the day of launch. One of the benefits of blog to book is, like we talked about earlier, I think Lauren mentioned this, is that you can continue to create new content on your blog with the knowledge being freely expressed to your audience that this is going to go into the book. Mm-hmm. So that's a way for you to go ahead and start teasing a book project out of the gate, But waiting until you're close to launch to start talking about your book is one of the biggest mistakes that I think most first-time and even some multiple-time authors make. So start talking about it quickly, soon.
Yeah.
Start your pre-launch marketing early. Don't wait. Looks like you have noted here, episode 10, you can get a deep dive into pre-launch and post-launch marketing, and episode 57 on how to deal with pre-order campaigns.
Yes.
What else?
So those are both episodes that I would recommend for this, just because it is something that I think that is very different from what you might be used to as a blogger.
Yeah.
For sure. But the other thing that, again, we've done plenty of episodes on this. I will make sure that those are linked in the show notes as well. I think episode number 39 is going to be one of them. If you are a blogger, you already have everything you need to sell your book direct to your audience. This is a great opportunity for you to be selling direct, for you to be connecting with the people already on your subscriber list or your email newsletter list, or add new people to that. This is a great way for you to be getting revenue directly, keeping people on your website, not sending people away from your blog. That defeats the purpose of creating this lead magnet product type for you. So this is a prime opportunity for you to be selling direct. You are absolutely ready for that, especially if you are if your blog is hosted on WordPress. We have a plugin for that. We have a WooCommerce Lulu Direct plugin for that, and a couple other different options too. So if you are deciding to go the route of publishing a book from your blog, make sure that you look into selling direct for that, because you are perfectly primed for it already, and it would be a wasted opportunity to not go that route.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So, go do it.
Go team.
Go do it. I don't know what kind of mindset I was in when I was writing this outline, but literally the last bullet on this outline is go forth and publish, or create a Lulu account, whatever. And I think those are great parting words to leave us on. As always, or maybe not as always, but as we have been doing recently, this is one of those topics that Matt and I absolutely love the challenge of, I'm not sure how my content would lead itself to a book. Do you guys have any fun and creative ideas for how to do that? The answer is yes. Absolutely. The answer is yes. So feel free to challenge us. Send us your ideas. Send us a link to your blog. Pitch something at us. Not physically, but verbally, digitally, perhaps. See what we can come up with, because I love that challenge and I think it'd be really fun. And if you are doing something cool where you are creating a book from your blog, please let us know. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. You can always follow us on Lulu's social media. If you listened to last week's episode, you heard me and Chelsea repeatedly make the point that we will be the ones answering you. So you can literally say hi to us. It's not a bot answering you. It's quite literally going to be us. You can shoot us an email, podcast@lulu.com. I'll make sure Matt's the one to answer those so that you get a chance to talk to him too. You can like and subscribe and watch these episodes on YouTube and leave us comments there. And you can tune in next week to hear another new episode.
Later.
Thanks for listening, everyone. To learn more about this episode, check out the show notes on publishprosperpodcast.com. Publish and Prosper is brought to you by Lulu.com. To hear more episodes like this one, please like and subscribe wherever you listen. Thanks for tuning in.